Attention stations, this is not the program. This is the promo for edition 195, Warren Zevon. This week on Rock Around the World, the man who put the rock in Rock on Tour. Recorded live at the Roxy in Los Angeles. Time to throw in the howl with Warren Zevon. This week on Rock Around the World.
Werewolves of London again.
Attention stations, what follows next is the show, edition number 195 of Rock Around the World, Warren Zevon.
Found a little old lady mutilated last night. Werewolves of London again.
Rock Around. On this edition of Rock Around the World, one of LA's best. A man guaranteed to have you howling before he's through, singer-songwriter Warren Zevon.
I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. He was looking for the place called Lee Ho Fook's. Gonna get a big dish of beef chow mein. Werewolves of London. Werewolves of London. You hear him howling around your kitchen door. You better not let him in. Little old lady got mutilated late last night. Werewolves of London again. Werewolves of London. Werewolves of London. Hairy-handed gent who ran amok in Kent. Lately he's been overheard in Mayfair. You better stay away from him. He'll rip your lungs out, Jim. I'd like to meet his tailor. Werewolves of London. I saw Lon Chaney walking with the Queen, doing the Werewolves of London. I saw Lon Chaney Jr. walking with the Queen, doing the Werewolves of London. I saw a werewolf drinking a pina colada at Trader Vic's. His hair was perfect.
Zevon, including a set recorded live at the Roxy in LA, and we'll hear from Jackson Browne and Linda Ronstadt as Rock Around the World continues.
Imaginary lovers never turn you down.
The toast of rock and roll, the Atlanta Rhythm Section is back with a new album, Champagne Jam.
We're gonna have us a champagne jam. We're gonna have us a champagne jam.
The Atlanta Rhythm Section, Champagne Jam. It's 8 incredible songs from 6 incredible musicians.
But I'm not gonna let it bother me tonight. I'm not gonna let it bother me tonight. Tomorrow I'm
Champagne Jam It's a milestone album from the Atlanta Rhythm Section, the toast of rock and roll,
Satisfaction guaranteed.
on Polydor Records and Tapes.
Imaginary love. Imaginary love.
As Rock Around the World continues, Warren Zevon describes the influence of other L.A. music, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Jackson Browne, and especially the singer who styled the Star-Spangled Banner for World Series fans and 3 of Warren Zevon's songs for her LP audience. Linda Ronstadt.
I hear mariachi static on my radio, and the tubes they glow in the dark. And I'm there with you in Ensenada, and I'm here in Echo Park. Carmelita, hold me tighter. I think I'm sinking down, and I'm all strung out on heroin on the outskirts of town.
Linda has the best voice in the world, that's all. Logically enough, if you had the best voice in the world, you'd probably be a magnet to attract the best material you could. She had heard, I presume, Hasten Down the Wind a long time before I ever met her or anything, so it's hard to say, you know. She could have heard it anywhere. Musicians, happily, in a musical community, musicians play songs they like for other musicians, you know, whether it's Michael Row the Boat Ashore or whatever, or Rock Me on the Water, whatever it may be. It's something that you'd sit down and play for other people, you know, because you like it. You know? Maybe you like it better than the radio. Turn off the radio and play someone's song. If it's someone you know, all the better. So it's, you know, probably Jackson played it for her, but it's also possible that someone else might have. I don't know. Probably Jackson played it for her.
I hear mariachi static on my radio, and the tubes they glow in the dark. And I'm there with her in Ensenada, and I'm here in Echo Park. Carmelita, hold me tighter. I think I'm sinking down, and I'm all strung out on heroin on the outskirts of town. Yeah, I'm sitting here playing solitaire with my pearl-handled deck. The county won't give me no more methadone. They cut off your welfare check. Carmelita, hold me tighter. I think I'm sinking down, and I'm all strung out on heroin on the outskirts of town.
Symbolically, I think the typewriter and the gun are kind of interchangeable symbols for me. The pen being mightier than the sword has not, hadn't occurred to me, but maybe the idea of this kind of foolish outlaw or writer in society are kind of interchangeable figures is closer to the interchangeability of those two images, Linda Ronstadt put back the original lyrics of the line in Carmelita about the Smith Corona, changed the Smith & Wesson, and I tell you honestly that I can't remember which of us sings which anymore. There's one version that's Smith & Wesson and one version that's Smith Corona, and at this moment, I'm not sure I remember which one of us sings which.
Upon my Smith and Wesson, and I went to meet my man.
He hangs out down on Alvarado Street by the Pioneer Chicken Stand. Carmelita, hold me tighter. I think I'm sinking down, and I'm all strung out on heroin on the outskirts of town. Carmelita, hold me tighter.
interesting thing about her version of Carmelita and of Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me is that Linda was probably, I don't know exactly specifically where and through whom, acquainted with the songs, probably before I recorded them. And in both cases, the changes she made in the lyrics are back to the original lyrics. In Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, we improvised the lyric and took one out for the sake of putting in the lyric that we enjoyed putting on my record.
Well, I lay my head on the railroad track, waiting on the double E. But the train don't run by here no more. Poor, poor, pitiful me. Oh, poor, pitiful me. Poor, poor, pitiful me. Oh, these boys won't let me be. Lord have mercy on me. Woe, woe is me. Well, I met a man out in Hollywood. Now I ain't naming names. Well, he really worked me over good, just like Jesse James. Yes, he really worked me over good. He was a credit to his gender. Put me through some changes, Lord, sorta like a wearing blender. Oh, poor, pitiful me. Poor, poor, pitiful me. Oh, these boys won't let me be. Lord have mercy on me. Woe, woe is me. Well, I met a boy in the Bucharest down in Yokohama. Picked me up and he threw me down. He said, please don't hurt me, mama. Oh, poor, pitiful me. Poor, poor, pitiful me. Oh, these boys won't let me be. Lord have mercy on me. Woe, woe is me. Oh, poor, poor me. Oh, poor, pitiful me. Oh, poor, poor me. Oh, poor, pitiful me. Oh, poor, poor me. Oh, poor, pitiful me.
Making of music still comes before the business considerations. When it stops being that way, I believe that it stops being the same kind of music, or good music, or intense music, or rock and roll music. You know, I mean, the music itself transcends the business considerations. And working with the Fleetwood Mac people, you know, transcends any kind of business consideration, because they really don't care about anything but coming in and playing music all night. Which I think it's a spirit that probably, you know, in one sense sells records, but makes musicians keep their sanity and continue to be musicians and consider, you know, concerned with the music first, or quit. At least I claim that I would if that time ever came, but I hope so. Intensity and also integrity, I guess, has to do with it, you know. And musicians' integrity is to put playing of music before anything else. We're talking about rock and roll music, and we're playing rock and roll music. And the fundamental integrity that you try to maintain in rock and roll music is that I guess I am really talking about art, but reducing it to a little simpler of a term, you know, to work with, which is rock and roll. I don't mind sounding pompous or pretentious, but I think that rock and roll represents, at least to me, represents to me a kind of out in the streets in some sense that, we'd have to take a long time to pursue kind of art. An art that has a kind of immediacy, that means that the intensity of what you put into it should be immediately responded to by the people you're playing it for. I think the best classical music is no different than rock and roll music and can be even irreverently described as rock and roll music in my mind. I can't imagine there having not been that that kind of spirit the first time they played the Bartok Concerto for Orchestra or the Rite of Spring or anything that, in my mind, is the finest rocking out music. So the street connection maybe is just the real world, real music for the real world, for real people. I don't want to get theological about it or nothing, but there's something special about writing, and it's something so personal that I think it transcends any kind of outside influences. The idea of classical composers working on commission the way they did, and working for selling the Catholic Church or whatever, I hadn't thought of it in political terms, which essentially they are. They can't be ignorant of each other, art and politics. Can't pretend total indifference to each other. For instance, if I had an overwhelming desire to write for a 100-piece orchestra, and there were compromises to be made in order to do that, and my primary motivation was to get this piece played by a 100-piece orchestra, then I can't tell you how I would deal with it. See, it's whether the musical consideration should come first. I was given an opportunity to literally make singles that would be on the radio in a week, every hour. That's how I got into the whole story, which I'm not going to tell again, about how I managed to be ostracized from Madison Avenue forever. But the overriding idea of using whatever talents I had or have, which I had to believe in because it's myself, directing it all towards peddling wine or whatever, a catsup, was, it really disturbed me deeply. So I don't sound like I'm, a tremendous moralist, because I don't think I am, or even a real admirable person particularly, but I felt that I was compromising something that was more valuable to me than eating. I'm not even suggesting that my art is more important than anything else that anybody else does in their lives, It's just my job and my belief, my dream, if you will. And compromising your dreams is selling out on such a fundamental, not moral, but just level that you're going to end up without anything left. And that's why it was important to me to get out. I found that it was not that difficult to pack up my guitar and take my wife and go to Spain and sing in a bar. And if I felt like writing a song in the afternoon and coming into the bar and singing that song in the midst of all my Irish traditional repertoire, I still had the option of being able to write and play a song. So I didn't have to face singing endless, product talk.
Well, I saw Lon Chaney walking with the Queen, doing the werewolves of London.
More from Warren Zevon, including a half-hour recorded live at the Roxy in L.A.,
Werewolves of London.
and some words from Jackson Browne as Rock Around the World continues.
What happens when your wife catches you with your girlfriend, and your girlfriend catches you with your wife? You're in double trouble.
I can break away.
Double Trouble, the sizzling new album by Frankie Miller.
I can break away from your heart.
And when you get stopped doing 80 in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and the 14-year-old next to you is the policeman's daughter, you're in double trouble again.
Get my way. Let's get
Live dangerously. Get into Double Trouble, the new album by the incomparable Frankie Miller on Chrysalis Records and Tapes.
As Rock Around the World continues, Warren Zevon shares Southern California memories with friend and producer Jackson Browne.
I met Jackson in 1968, long time before his first album, but I had the immediate impression that this guy could really write, and there was no kidding around about it. This guy was really there.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want to understand.
I remember the first time I saw the peace symbol. And it was a big disappointment when Nixon, won that election in '68, and you began to look around, and you saw all the hip phrases, and things that really meant a lot, in terms of recognizing each other's awareness, being sort of engulfed by Madison Avenue and. Well, clear all herbal essence, really. I don't understand this California laid back. I mean, no one's from California. No one's from here, This is an industry town, Factories, myth factories. And people come here for whatever reasons. And there's not one guy in Eagles from California. I could say I'm from California. Ned Doheny's the only guy I know born here. Maybe Lowell George, too, and the Barrera brothers, But there are not too many people from here.
Well, they say this place is evil. That ain't why I stay. On something that'll never be nothing. And I found it in L.A. It was midnight in Topanga. There's a full moon rising. Join me in L.A. Join me in L.A. I was at the Tropicana on a dark and sultry day. Had to call somebody long distance. I said, join me in L.A. Join me in L.A.
I've had the good fortune to know, and to have known for a long time, a lot of musicians who have become very successful because they're simply very good musicians, like the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac. Can I help but if I'm lucky, in Jackson's case, I'll tell you the truth, I really don't know where he lived. We just saw each other when, every now and then, we'd have a batch of new songs, we'd play them back and forth, with the same kind of continuing sense of appreciation for what each other was doing, It's just, hey, just a lucky guy.
Warren Zevon returns for an exclusive set recorded live at the Roxy in LA as Rock Around the World continues.
Give her some funk, that music, she treats you nice. Feed her some hungry.
Presenting the ultimate motion picture soundtrack album. Boston, Jimmy Buffett, the Doobie Brothers, the Eagles, Dan Fogelberg, Foreigner, Billy Joel, Randy Meisner, Steve Miller, Tom Petty, Queen, Linda Ronstadt, Boz Scaggs, Bob Seger, Steely Dan, James Taylor, Joe Walsh. The original motion picture soundtrack album from the Universal Pictures film FM, the music that the movie's all about. A deluxe 2-record set available now at record stores everywhere on MCA Records and Tapes.
Daddy, no, it's